Whoa. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Reading Vedic Paradigm, Chapter 58, Shiva. Birth. In the beginning, Brahma created four great sages named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upwards. Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. My dear sons, he said, now generate progeny. But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness. On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma, which he tried to control and not express. Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out from between his eyebrows, and a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated. After his birth, he began to cry. O Destiny Maker, Teacher of the Universe, kindly designate my name and place. The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, do not cry, I shall certainly do as you desire. Therefore Brahma said, O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people because you have so anxiously cried. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence. The heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. Lord Brahma said, my dear boy Rudra, you have 11 other names. Manu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadvaja, Ritadvaja, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadeva, and Drit, Dritavrata. O Rudra, you also have 11 wives, called the hmm. O Rudra, you also have 11 wives, called the Rudranis, and they are as follows: D, Driti, Masala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Svadha, and Diksha. My dear boy, you may now accept all the names and places designated for you and your different wives. And since you are now one of the masters of the living entities, you may increase the population on a large scale. The most powerful Rudra, whose bodily color was blue mixed with red, created many offspring exactly resembling him in features, strength, and furious in nature. The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number, and when they assembled together, they attempted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entities, saw this, he became afraid of the situation. Brahma told Rudra, "O best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me. My dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities, and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before. By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead. Who is within the heart of every living entity, and at the same time beyond the reaches of all senses." Sri Maitreya said, "Thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of the Vedas. Addressing him with words of assent, he entered the forest to perform austere penances. Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of generations. Sambhu like yogurt. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, viz. Milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Sambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction." Explanation. The real nature of Shambhu, the presiding deity of Maheshadama, is described. Shambhu is not a second godhead other than Krishna. Those who entertain such discriminating sentiments commit a great offense against the Supreme Lord. The supremacy of Shambhu is subservient to that of Govinda. Hence, they are not really different from each other. The non-distinction is established by the fact that just as milk is treated with acid, turns into curd, so Godhead becomes a subservience when he himself attains a distinct personality by the addition of a particular element of adulteration. This personality has no independent initiative. The said adulterating principle is constituted of a combination of the stupefying quality of the diluting energy, the quality of non-plenitude, of the marginal potency, and a slight decree of the ecstatic cognitive principle of the plenary spiritual potency. This specifically adulterated reflection of the principle of the subjective portion of the divinity is Sadashiva, in the form of the effulgent masculine symbol god Shambhu, from whom Rudra Deva is manifested, in the work of mundane creation as the material cause, in the work of preservation by the destruction of sundry asuras, and in the work of destruction, the conduct, the whole operation. Govinda manifests himself as Guna Avatara in the form of Shambhu, who is the separated portion of Govinda imbued with the principle of his subjective plenary portion. The personality of the destructive principle in the form of time has been identified with that of Shambhu by scriptural evidences that have been adduced in the commentary. The purport of the Bhagavata shlokas, viz. Vaishnavanam, Yata Shambhu, etc., is that Shambhu, in pursuance of the will of Govinda, works in union with the consort Durga, Durga, Durga Devi by his own time energy. He teaches pious duties, dharma, as stepping stones for the attainment of spiritual service in the various tantra shastras, etc., suitable for jivas in different grades of the conditional existence. In obedience to the will of Govinda, Shambhu maintains and fosters the religion of pure devotion by preaching the cult of illusionism, Mayavada, and speculative Agama Shastras. The 50 attributes of individual souls are manifest in a far vaster measure in Shambhu, and 5 additional attributes not attainable by jivas are also partly found in him. So Shambhu cannot be called a jiva. He is the lord of jiva, but yet partakes of the nature of a separated portion of Govinda. Ganges. Dilipa's son, Bhagirata, performed very severe austerities to bring the Ganges to this material world. Thereafter, Mother Ganges appeared before King Bhagirata and said, I am very much satisfied with your austerities, and am now prepared to give you benedictions as you desire. Being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Mother Ganges replied, When I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Asatala, the Patala area of the universe. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for there the people in general will bathe in my water to cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. Bhagirata said, Those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior, and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted, for such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions like a cloth woven of threads extending for its length and breadth. This entire universe, in all its latitude and longitude, is situated under different potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Lord, and thus he represents the supersoul and the embodied soul. He can sustain your forceful waves on his head. After saying this, Bhagirata satisfied Lord Shiva by performing austerities. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was very quickly satisfied with Bhagirata. When King Bhagirata approached Lord Shiva and requested him to sustain the forceful waves of the Ganges, Lord Shiva accepted the proposal by saying, Let it be so. Then with great attention, he sustained the Ganges on his head. For the water of the Ganges is purifying, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. Commentary. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same sense that yogurt is also milk, although at that same time it is not milk. For the maintenance of the material world, there are three incarnations: Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in an incarnation for the mode of ignorance. The material world exists predominantly in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Lord Shiva is compared here to the longitude and latitude of the entire universe, which resembles a cloth woven of threads extending for both its length and breadth. The words Atushyata indicate that Lord Shiva was satisfied very soon. Therefore, another name for Lord Shiva is Ashutosha. Ashutosha. Materialistic persons become attached to Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva bestows benedictions upon anyone and everyone very quickly, not caring to know how his devotees prosper or suffer. Although materialistic persons know that material happiness is nothing but another side of suffering, they want it, and to get it very quickly, they worship Lord Shiva. We find that materialists are generally devotees of many demigods, especially Lord Shiva and Mother Durga. With Markandeya, Sutta Goswami said, Lord Rudra, traveling in the sky on his bull and accompanied by his consorts, Rudrani, as well as his personal associates, observed Markandeya in trance. Goddess Uma, seeing the sage, addressed Lord Girisha, My lord, just see this learned Brahmana, his body, mind, and senses motionless in trance. He is as calm as the waters of the ocean when the wind has ceased and the fish remains still. Therefore, my lord, since you bestow perfection on the performers of austerity, please award the sage the perfection that is obviously due him. Lord Shiva replied, Surely this saintly Brahmana does not desire any benediction, not even liberation itself, for he has attained pure devotional service unto the inexhaustible personality of Godhead. Still, my dear Bhavani, let us talk with this saintly personality. After all, association with saintly devotees is a man's highest achievement. Sutta Goswami said, Having spoken thus, Lord Shankara, the shelter of pure souls, master of all spiritual sciences, and controller of all embodied living beings, approached the sage. Because Markandeya's material mind had stopped functioning, the sage failed to notice that Lord Shiva and his wife, the controllers of the universe, had personally come to see him. Markandeya was so absorbed in meditation that he was unaware of either himself or the external world. Understanding the situation very well, the powerful Lord Shiva employed his mystic power to enter within the sky of Markandeya's heart, just as the wind passes through an opening. Sri Markandeya saw Lord Shiva suddenly appear within his heart. Lord Shiva's golden hair resembling lightning, and he had 3 eyes, 10 arms, and a tall body that shone like the rising sun. He wore a tiger skin, and he carried a trident, a bow, arrows, a sword, and a shield, along with prayer beads, a damaru drum, a skull, and an axe. Astonished, the sage came out of his trance and thought, Who is this? And where has he come from? Opening his eyes, the sage saw Lord Rudra. the master of the three worlds, together with Uma and Rudra's followers. Markandeya then offered his respectful obeisances by bowing his head. Markandeya worshipped Lord Shiva along with Uma and Shiva's associates by offering them words of welcome, sitting places, water for washing their feet, scented drinking water, fragrant oils, flower garland, and arati lamps. Markandeya said, "O mighty Lord, what can I possibly do for you, who are fully satisfied by your own ecstasy? Indeed, by your mercy you satisfy this entire world. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto you, O all auspicious transcendental personality. As the Lord of goodness, you give pleasure. In contact with the mode of passion, you appear most fearful, and you also associate with the mode of ignorance." Sutta Goswami said, "Lord Shiva, the foremost demigod and the shelter of saintly devotees, was satisfied by Markandeya's praise. Pleased, he smiled and addressed the sage. Lord Shiva said, please ask me for some benediction. Since among all the givers of benedictions, we three, Brahma, Vishnu, and I, are the best. Seeing us never goes in vain, because simply by seeing us, a mortal achieves immortality. The inhabitants of ruling demigods of all planets, along with Lord Brahma, the Supreme Lord Hari, and I, glorify, worship, and assist to those brahmanas who are saintly, always peaceful, free of material attachment, compassionate to all living beings, purely devoted to us, devoid of hatred, and endowed with equal vision. These devotees do not differentiate between Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and me, nor do they differentiate between themselves and other living beings. Therefore, because you are this kind of saintly devotee, we worship you. More bodies of water do not constitute holy places. Mere bodies of water do not constitute holy places, nor are lifeless statues of the demigods actual worshipable deities. Because external vision fails to appreciate the higher essence of the holy rivers and the demigods, these purify only after a considerable time. But devotees like you purify immediately just by being seen. By meditating upon the Supreme Soul, performing austerities, engaging in Vedic study, and following regulated principles, the Brahmanas sustain within themselves the three Vedas, which are non-different from Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and me. Therefore I offer my obeisances unto the Brahmanas. Even the worst sinners and social outcasts are purified just by hearing about or seeing personalities like you. Imagine then how purified they become by directly speaking with you. Sutta Goswami said, drinking with his ears Lord Shiva's nectarian words, full of the confidential essence of religion, Markandeya Rishi could not be satiated. Markandeya, having been forced by Lord Vishnu's illusory energy to wander about for a long time in the water of dissolution, had become extremely exhausted. But Lord Shiva's words of nectar vanquished his accumulated suffering. Thus he addressed Lord Shiva. Sri Markandeya said, it is indeed most difficult for embodied souls to understand the pastimes of the universal controllers, for such lords bow down to and offer praise to the very living beings they rule. Generally, it is to induce embodied souls to accept religious principles that the authorized teachers of religion exhibit ideal behavior while encouraging and praising the proper behavior of others. This apparent humility is simply a show of mercy. Such behavior of the Supreme Lord and his personal associates, which the Lord effects by his own bewildering potency, does not spoil his power any more than a magician's power are diminished by his exhibition of tricks. I offer my obeisances to that supreme personality of Godhead, who has created this entire universe simply by his desire, and then entered into it as the supersoul. By making the modes of nature act, he seems to be the direct creator of this world, just as a dreamer seems to be acting within his dream. He is the owner and ultimate controller of the three modes of material nature, yet he remains alone and pure without any equal. He is the supreme spiritual master of all, the original personal form of the absolute truth. O all-pervading Lord, since I have received the benediction of seeing you, what other benediction can I ask for? Simply by seeing you, a person fulfills all his desires and can achieve anything imaginable. But I do request one benediction from you, who are full of all perfection and able to shower down the fulfillment of all desires. I ask to have unfailing devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and for his dedicated devotees, especially you. Sutta Goswami said, thus worshipped and glorified by the eloquent statements of the sage Markandeya, Lord Shiva, encouraged by his consort, replied to him as follows, O great sage, because you are devoted to Lord Adhoksaja, all your desires will be fulfilled. Until the very end of this creation cycle, you will enjoy pious fame and freedom from old age and death. O Brahmana, may you have perfect knowledge of past, present, and future, along with transcendental realization of the Supreme, enriched by renunciation. You have the brilliance of an ideal Brahmana, and thus you may achieve the post of spiritual master of the Puranas. Sutta Goswami said, having thus granted Markandeya Rishi benedictions, Lord Shiva went on his way, continuing to describe the goddess Devi, the accomplishments of the sage, and the direct exhibition of the Lord's illusory power that he had experienced. The Annihilator. During the period of annihilation, at the end of each millennium, the Lord becomes angry, and the part of anger is played by Lord Shiva, who is therefore called Rudra. When the Lord appeared in great anger to kill Hiranyakashipu, everyone was extremely afraid of the Lord's attitude. But Lord Shiva, knowing very well that the Lord's anger is also his Leela, was not afraid. His Leela was not afraid. Lord Shiva knew that he would have to play the part of anger for the Lord. Kala means Lord Shiva, Bhairava, and Kopa refers to the Lord's anger. These words combined together as Kopakala refer to the end of each millennium. Actually, the Lord is always affectionate toward his devotees, even though he may appear very angry, because he is Avyayatma, because he never falls down. Even when angry, the Lord is affectionate toward his devotees. Therefore, Lord Shiva reminded the Lord to act like an affectionate father toward Prahlad Maharaj, who was standing by the Lord's side as an exalted, fully surrendered devotee. Tripurari. When the demigods, who are always powerful by the mercy of Lord Krishna, fought the Asuras were defeated, and therefore they took shelter of Mayadanava, the greatest of the demons. Mayadanava, the great leader of the demons, prepared 3 invisible residences and gave them to the demons. These dwellings resembled airplanes made of gold, silver, and iron, and they contained uncommon paraphernalia. My dear King Yudhishthira, because of these 3 dwellings, the commanders of the demons remained invisible to the demigods. Taking advantage of this opportunity, The demons, remembering their former enmity, began to vanquish the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Therefore, when the demons had begun to destroy the higher planetary systems, the rulers of those planets went to Lord Shiva, fully surrendered unto him, and said, Dear Lord, we demigods living in the three worlds are about to be vanquished. We are your followers. Kindly save us. The most powerful and able Lord Shiva reassured them and said, Do not be afraid. He then fixed his arrows to his bow and released them toward the three residences occupied by the demons. The arrows released by Lord Shiva appeared like fiery beams emanating from the sun globe and covered the three residential airplanes, which could then no longer be seen. Attacked by Lord Shiva's golden arrows, all the demoniac inhabitants of those three dwellings lost their lives and fell down. Then the great mystic Maya Danava dropped the demons into a nectarian well that he had created. When the dead bodies of the demons came in touch with the nectar, their bodies became invincible to thunderbolts. Endowed with great strength, they got up like lightning-penetrating clouds. Seeing Lord Shiva very much aggrieved and disappointed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, considered how to stop this nuisance created by Maya Danava. Then Lord Brahma became a calf and Lord Vishnu a cow, and at noon they entered the residences and drank all the nectar in the well. The demons could see the calf and cow, but because of the illusion created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons could not forbid them. The great mystic Mayadanava became aware that the calf and cow were drinking the nectar, and he could understand this to be the unseen power of providence. Thus he spoke to the demons, who were grievously lamenting. Mayadanava said, What has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others cannot be undone anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else. Therefore, Lord Krishna, by his own personal potency, consisting of religion, knowledge, renunciation, opulence, austerity, education, and activities, equipped Lord Shiva with all the necessary paraphernalia, such as a chariot, a flag, horses, elephants, a bow, a shield, and arrows. When Lord Shiva was fully equipped in this way, he sat down on the chariot with his arrows and bow to fight the demons. The most powerful Lord Shiva joined the arrows to his bow, and at noon he set fire to all three residences of the demons and thus destroyed them. Seated in their airplanes in the sky, the inhabitants of the higher planetary systems beat many kettle drums. The demigods, saints, pitas, siddhas, and various great personalities showered flowers on the head of Lord Shiva, wishing him all victory. And the apsaras began to chant and dance with great pleasure. Thus Lord Shiva is known as Shipuhari, the annihilator of the three dwellings of the demons, because he burnt these dwellings to ashes, being worshipped by the demigods. Headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva returned to his own abode, Banasara. King Bale had 100 sons, and the eldest of all of them was Banasara. This great hero, Banasara, born of Maharaj Bale, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and was always ready to render service unto him. Because of his devotion, he achieved a great position in society, and he was honored in every respect. Actually, he was very intelligent and liberal also, and his activities are all praiseworthy because he never deviated from his promise and word of honor. He was very truthful and fixed in his vow. In those days, he was ruling over the city of Shonan, Shunapatara. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Banasura had 1,000 arms, and he became so powerful that even demigods like King Indra were serving him as most obedient servants. Long ago, when Lord Shiva was dancing in the celebrated fashion called Tava Tandava Nirtra, for which he is known as Nataraja, Banasura helped Lord Shiva in his dancing rhythmically beating drums with his 1,000 hands. Lord Shiva is well known as Ashutosha, very easily pleased, and he is also very affectionate to his devotees. He is a great protector for persons who take shelter of him and is the master of all living entities in this material world. Being pleased with Banasura, he said, "Whatever you desire, you can have from me, for I am very much pleased with you." Banasura replied, "My dear lord, if you please, you can remain in my city just to protect me from the hands of my enemies." Once upon a time, Banasura came to offer his respects to Lord Shiva. By touching the lotus feet of Lord Shiva with his helmet, which was shining like the sun globe, he offered his obeisances unto him. While offering his respectful obeisances, Banasura said, "My dear lord, anyone who has not fulfilled his ambition will be able to do so by taking shelter of your lotus feet, which are just like a desire tree, from which one can take anything he desires. My dear lord, you have given me 1,000 arms, but I do not know what to do with them. They are simply a burden. I cannot use them properly in fighting because I cannot find anyone competent to fight with me except your lordship, the original father of the material world. Sometimes I feel a great tendency to fight with my arms, and I go out to find a suitable warrior. Unfortunately, everyone flees, knowing my extraordinary power. Being baffled at not finding a match, I satisfy the itching of my arms by beating them against the mountains. In this way, I tear many great mountains to pieces." Lord Shiva realized that his benediction had become troublesome for Banasura and addressed him. "You rascal, you are very easy to fight, but since you have no one to fight with, you are distressed. Although you think that there is no one in the world to oppose you except me, I say that you will eventually find such a competent person, and that time your days will come to an end, and your flag of victory will no longer fly. Then you will see your false prestige smashed to pieces." After hearing Lord Shiva's statement, Banasura, who was very much puffed up with his power, became elated that he would meet someone able to smash him to pieces. Banasura then returned home with great pleasure, and he waited for the day when the suitable fighter would come to cut down his strength. He was such a foolish demon. Banasura heard that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty were attacking the whole city, tearing down various walls, gates, and nearby gardens. Becoming very angry, he immediately ordered his soldiers, who were of equal caliber, to go and face them. Lord Shiva was so kind to Banasura that he personally came as the commander-in-chief of the military force, assisted by his heroic heroic sons Kartikeya and Ganapati. Nandishvara, Lord Shiva, seated on his favorite bull, led the fighting against Lord Krishna and Balaram. We can simply imagine how fierce the fighting was. Lord Shiva with his valiant sons on one side, and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his elder brother, Sri Balaramaji, on the other side. On the other. The fighting was so fierce that those who saw the battle were struck with wonder, and the hairs on their bodies stood up. Lord Shiva was engaged in fighting directly with Lord Krishna. Pradyumna was engaged with Kartikeya, and Lord Balaram was engaged with Banasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbhanda, who was assisted by Kupakarna. Samba, the son of Krishna, fought the son of Banasura, and Banasura fought Satyaki, commander-in-chief of the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the fighting was waged. News of the fighting spread all over the universe. Demigods, such as Lord Brahma, from higher planetary systems, along with great sages and saintly persons, Siddhas, Chalanas, and Gandharvas, all being very curious to see the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna and their assistants, hovered over the battlefield in their airplanes. Lord Shiva is called the Bhutanata, being assisted by various types of powerful ghosts and denizens of the inferno. Bhutas, Pretas, Ramatas, Guryakas, and Dakinis, Pishachas, Kushmanda, Kushmandas, Petalas, Vinayakas, and Brahma Rakshasas, of all kinds of ghosts. The Brahma Rakshasas are very powerful. They are brahmanas who, after death, have entered the ghostly species of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, simply drove all these ghosts away from the battlefield with the arrows from his celebrated bow, Danur. Lord Shiva then began to release all his selected weapons against the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, without any difficulty, counteracted all these weapons with counter weapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra, similar to the atomic bomb, by another Brahmastra, and an air weapon by a mountain weapon. When Lord Shiva released a particular weapon, bringing about a violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposite element, a mountain weapon, which checked the hurricane on the spot. Similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted it with torrents of rain. At last, when Lord Shiva released his personal weapon called the Pashupata Astra. Krishna immediately counteracted it by the Narayanastra. Lord Shiva then became exasperated in fighting with Lord Krishna. Krishna then took the opportunity to release his yawning weapon. When this weapon is released, the opposing party becomes tired, stops fighting, and begins to yawn. Consequently, Lord Shiva became so fatigued that he refused to fight anymore and began yawning. Krishna was now able to turn his attention from the attack of Lord Shiva to the efforts of Banasura, and he began to kill Banasura's personal soldiers with swords and clubs. Being greatly harassed by the arrows of Krishna, all the associates of Lord Shiva, the hobgoblins, and ghostly bhutas, pretas, and kshatriyas left the battlefield. Lord Shiva then took to his last resort. He released his greatest death weapon, known as Shiva Dvara, which destroys by excessive temperature. It is said that at the end of creation, the sun becomes 12 times more scorching than usual. This 12 times hotter temperature is called Shiva Dvara. When the Shiva Dvara personified was released, he had 3 heads and 3 legs. And as he came toward Krishna, it appeared that he was burning everything to ashes. He was so powerful that he made blazing fire appear in all directions, and Krishna observed that he was specifically coming toward him. As there is a Shivadvara weapon, there is also a Narayan Dvara weapon, which is represented by excessive cold. When there is excessive heat, one can somehow or other tolerate it. For when there is excessive cold, everything collapses. This is actually experienced by a person at the time of death. At the time of death, the temperature of the body first of all increases to 107 degrees, and then the whole body collapses and immediately becomes cold as ice. To counteract the scorching heat of the Shiva Vara, there is no other weapon but the Narayan Javara. Therefore, when Lord Krishna saw that the Shiva Dvara had been released by Lord Shiva, he had no recourse other than to release the Narayan Dvara. Lord Sri Krishna is the original Narayan and the Narayan and the controller of the Narayan Java weapon. When the Narayan Java weapon was released, there was a great fight between the two Dvaras. When excessive heat is counteracted by extreme cold, it is natural for the hot temperature to gradually reduce. And this is what occurred in the fight between Shiva Dvara and the Narayan Dvara. Gradually, the Shiva Dvara temperature diminished, and the Shiva Dvara began to cry for help from Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva was unable to help him in the presence of the Narayan Javara. Unable to get any help from Lord Shiva, the Shiva Dvara could understand that he had no means of escape outside of surrendering unto Narayan, Lord Krishna himself. Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, could not help him. What to speak of the lesser demigods? And therefore, the Shiva Dvara ultimately surrendered unto Krishna, bowing before him and offering a prayer so that the Lord might be pleased and give him protection. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you have unlimited potencies. No one can surpass your potencies, and thus you are the Lord of everyone. Generally, people consider Lord Shiva the most powerful personality in the material world, but Lord Shiva is not all powerful. You are all powerful. After hearing the Shivadvara, Lord Krishna replied, I am pleased with your statement. Be assured that there will be no more suffering for you from the Narayan Dvara. Not only are you now free from fear of the Narayan Dvara, but anyone in the future who simply recollects this fight between you and the Narayan Dvara will also be freed from all kinds of fear. After hearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shivadvara offered respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet and left. In the meantime, Banasura somehow or other recovered from his setbacks and with rejuvenated energy returned to fight. This time, Banasura appeared before Lord Krishna, who was seated on his chariot, with different kinds of weapons in his 1,000 hands. Very much agitated, Banasura splashed his different weapons upon the body of Sri Krishna like torrents of rain. When Lord Krishna saw the weapons of Banasura coming at him, like water coming out of a strainer, he took his sharp-edged Sudarshana disc and began to cut off the demon's 1,000 arms, one after another, just as a gardener trims the twigs of a tree with sharp cutters. When Lord Shiva saw that his devotee Banasura could not be saved even in his presence, he came to his senses and personally came before Lord Krishna and began to pacify him by offering the following prayers. My dear Lord, all the demigods, including myself and Lord Brahma, as well as great saintly persons and sages, who have cleansed their hearts of material attachment, you have, by your grace, wholeheartedly taken shelter of your lotus feet. We have all taken shelter of you, because we have accepted you as the Supreme Lord and the dearmost life and soul of all of us. You are the original cause of this cosmic manifestation. You are its supreme maintainer, and you are the cause of its dissolution also. At last, my Lord, I may inform you that this Banasura is very dear to me. He has rendered valuable service unto me. Therefore, I want to see him always happy. Being pleased with him, I have assured him safety. I pray to you, my Lord, that as you were pleased with his forefathers, King Prahlada and Bali Maharaj, you will also be pleased with him. After hearing Lord Shiva's prayer, Lord Krishna addressed him also as Lord and said, My dear Lord Shiva, I accept your statements, and I also accept your desire for Banasura. I know that this Banasura is the son of Bali Maharaj, and as such, I cannot kill him, but that is my promise. I gave the benediction to King Prahlad that the demons who would appear in his family would never be killed by me. Therefore, without killing this Banasura, I have simply cut off his arms to deprive him of his false prestige. The large number of soldiers he was maintaining became a burden on this earth, and I have killed them all to minimize the burden. Now he has 4 remaining arms, and he will remain immortal, unaffected by material pains and pleasures. I know that he is one of your chief devotees. He is one of the chief devotees of your lordship. So you can now rest assured that henceforward he need have no fear from anything. Chapter 59, The Law of Karma. The Ishopanishad states that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. Part of the Lord's complete arrangement for this material world is his process of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Every living being in this material world has a fixed schedule of 6 changes: birth, growth, maintenance, the production of byproducts, diminu- uh, diminution, 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 and destruction. This is the law of material nature. A flower is born as a bud. It grows, remains fresh for 2 or 3 days, produces a seed, gradually withers, and then is finished. You cannot stop this by your so-called material science. To try to do so is avidya, ignorance. Sometimes people foolishly think that by scientific advancement, man will become immortal. This is nonsense. You cannot stop the material laws. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Lord Krishna says that the material energy is dulatyaya, impossible to overcome by material means. Material nature consists of 3 modes, or gunas: sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna, or the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Another meaning of guna is rope. Rope is made by twisting fiber in a 3-fold process. First, the fiber is twisted in 3 small strands, and then each of them are twisted together. And then again, 3 of those are twisted together. In this way, the rope becomes very strong. Similarly, the 3 modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are mixed, after which they produce some byproduct. Then they are mixed again, and then again. Thus they are twisted together innumerable times. In this way, the material energy binds you more and more. By your own efforts, you cannot get out of this bondage, which is known as pavarga. Pavarga is the 5th set of letters in the Sanskrit uh, Devanagari alphabet. It contains the letters pa, ba, and ma. Pa stands for parishrama, hard labor. Every living entity in this world is struggling very hard to maintain himself and survive. This is called the hard struggle for existence. Pa stands for pena, foam. When a horse works very hard, foam comes out of his mouth. Similarly, when we are tired from working very hard, our tongue may become dry and some foam forms in our mouth. Everyone is working very hard for sense gratification, so much so that foam is coming from their mouth. Ba represents bandha, bondage. In spite of all our efforts, we remain bound up by the ropes of the material modes of nature. Ba stands for baha, baha, ba, pa, ba, pa, ba, ba, ba. Stands for baya, fear. In material life, one is always in a blazing fire of fear, since no one knows what will happen next. And Ma represents mrityu, death. All our hopes and plans for happiness and security in this world are ended by death. So Krishna consciousness nullifies this pavarga process. In other words, by taking Krishna consciousness, one attains a pavarga. There is no hard struggle for existence and no material bondage, fear, or death. Pavarga symptomizes this material world, but when you add the prefix a to pavarga, that means it is nullified. Our Krishna consciousness movement is the path of Apavarga. Unfortunately, people do not know of these things, and therefore they are wasting their lives. This modern civilization is a soul-killing civilization. The people are killing themselves because they do not know what real life is. They are simply living like animals. The animal does not know what life is, so he simply works under the laws of nature, undergoing gradual evolution. But when you get this human form of life, you have a responsibility to live in a different way. Here is a chance for you to become Krishna conscious and solve all problems. But if you don't, if you continue to act like animals, you will again have to enter the cycle of birth and death and transmigrate through 8,400,000 species of life. For example, the sunshine you are seeing now, you will not see again until after 24 hours. Everything in nature moves in a cycle. So if you lose this opportunity of elevating yourself, then again you must enter the cycle of transmigration. Nature's law is very strong. Therefore, we are opening so many centers so that people may take advantage of this international society of Krishna consciousness and elevate themselves. It is important to take the Krishna consciousness immediately because we do not know how much time is left before death. When your time in this body expires, no one can stop your death. The arrangement of material nature is so strong. You cannot say, let me remain. Actually, people sometimes request like that. When I was in Allahabad, an old friend who was very rich and dying, at that time he begged the doctor, can't you give me at least 4 more years to live? I have some plans which I could not finish. You see that this is foolishness. Everyone thinks, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. No, neither the doctors nor the scientists can check death. Oh, no, sir. Not 4 years. Not even 4 minutes. You have to go immediately. This is the law. So before that moment comes, one should be very careful to become realized in Krishna consciousness. You should realize Krishna consciousness very quickly. Before your next death comes, you must finish your business. That is intelligence. Otherwise, you suffer defeat. The Ishopanishad states that whatever emanates from the complete whole, the Supreme Lord, is also complete in itself. Therefore, if you want to take advantage of your life and become Krishna conscious, there is complete facility. But you have to come to the point of taking up the practice. Krishna consciousness is not theoretical, it is practical. All experiments have already been performed. So, as indicated in the Ishopanishad, there is a complete facility for the small, complete units, ourselves, to realize the supreme complete, Krishna. We are complete units, but we are small. For example, in a big machine, there is a small screw, and the perfection of that small screw is to be fitted in its proper place. Then it has value. But if it becomes unscrewed from the machine and falls down on the floor, it has no value. Similarly, we are perfect as long as we are attached to Krishna. Otherwise, we are useless. To realize the complete means to realize what our relationship with the complete is. And all forms of incompleteness are experienced only on account of incomplete knowledge of the complete. We are thinking, I am equal to God, I am God. This is incomplete knowledge. But if you know, I am part and parcel of God, and therefore I am equal to God in quality, that is complete knowledge. The human form of life is a chance to revive the complete manifestation of the consciousness of the living being. You can revive this complete consciousness by the process of Krishna consciousness. But if you don't take advantage of this complete facility, you are killing yourself, committing suicide. And it is said in the Ishopanishad, the killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the world of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So don't be the killer of your soul. Utilize the complete facility of your human life to become Krishna consciousness. That is your only business. Breaking the bonds of karma. In conditioned life, we are committing sins at every step, even without knowing it. The reason we are sinning unknowingly is that we have been in ignorance from our very birth. This ignorance is prominent despite so many educational institutions. Why? Because despite so many big universities, none of them is teaching Atma Tattva, the science of the soul. Therefore, people remain in ignorance, and they continue to sin and suffer the reactions. That is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.3. Parabhavas tavad abodhajato yavan na jig jignasata atmatatvam. This foolishness will continue until one comes to the platform of understanding self-realization. Otherwise, all these universities and institutions for imparting knowledge are a continuation of that same ignorance and foolishness. Unless one comes to the point of asking, what am I? What is God? What is this world? What is my relationship with God in this world? And finds proper answers, one continues to be foolish like an animal and is subjected to transmigration from one body to another in different species of life. This is the result of ignorance. So, the modern civilization is very risky. One may feel comfortable as a successful businessman or politician, or one may think oneself comfortable because of being born in a rich nation like America. But these statuses of life are temporary. They will have to change, and we do not know what kind of miseries we will have to suffer in our next life because of our sinful activities. So if one does not begin cultivating transcendental knowledge, then one's life is very risky. Suppose a healthy man is living in a contaminated place. Is his life not at risk? He may become infected by disease at any moment. Therefore, we should work to dissipate our ignorance through cultivation of transcendental knowledge. A good example of how we commit sins unknowingly is cooking. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.13, Krishna says that his devotees are freed from sin because they eat only the remnants of food that has been offered to him. But he says those who cook for themselves eat only sin. The difference between cooking here in this temple and cooking in some ordinary house is that our cooking and eating are relieving us from sin, while the cooking and eating of a non-devotee are simply entangling him more and more in sin. The cooking appears to be the same, but this cooking and that cooking are different. Here there is no sin because the food is being cooked for Krishna. Anything you do outside the field of Krishna conscious activities entangles you in the modes of nature. Generally, you are being implicated in sinful activities. Those who are a little more cautious avoid sinful activities and perform pious activities. But one who performs pious activities is also entangled. If a man is pious, he may take birth in a family that is very rich or aristocratic. Or he may be very beautiful or get the opportunity to become very learned. These are the results of pious actions. But whether you are pious or impious, you have to enter in the womb of some mother. And that tribulation is very severe, that we have forgotten. Whether you take birth in a very rich and aristocratic family or from an animal womb, pangs of birth, old age, disease, and death continue. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give you an opportunity to solve these four problems: birth, old age, disease, and death. But if you continue to act sinfully and eat sinfully, then these miseries will continue. Otherwise, you can nullify your sinful reactions by surrendering to Krishna. As he states in the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, just give up all your so-called religious practices and surrender unto me. I shall protect you from your sinful reactions. Part of surrendering to Krishna is being careful not to eat anything that has not been offered to him. That should be our determination. Even if we have committed some sin by eating prasadam, food offered to Krishna, we will counteract it. If we surrender to Krishna in this way, he will protect us from sinful reactions. That is his promise. And where does the surrendered devotee go at the time of death? Is he finished, as the Vedas say? No, Krishna says, Mam eti, he comes to me. And what is the benefit of going there? Mamu pecha punar janma dukhalayam asashvatam napnuvanti. One who comes back to me does not have to return to this miserable material world. That is the highest perfection. The Ishopanishad states, the killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Krishna is a lion to the demons and a lamb to the devotees. The atheists say, we have not seen Krishna. Yes, you will see Krishna. You will see him as a lion of death when he ultimately comes to capture you. Ow. The atheist sees Krishna as death, and the theist or devotee sees Krishna as his lover, as gentle as a lamb. Actually, everyone is engaged in Krishna's service, either out of love or by force. One who is entangled in material life is engaged in Krishna's service because he is forced to serve Krishna's external material energy. It is just like what we see with the citizens of the state. Whether one is a law-abiding citizen or a criminal, one is subservient to the state. The criminal may say he doesn't care for the state, but then the police will force him to accept the authority of the state by putting him in prison. Therefore, whether one accepts or rejects Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy that every living entity is eternally the servant of Krishna, one remains his servant. The only difference is that the atheist is being forced to accept Krishna as his master, and the devotee is offering him service. This Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people that they are eternal servants of God and should voluntarily offer him service. Don't falsely claim that you are God. Oh, you don't care for God? You have to care? The great demon Hiranyakashipu also didn't care for God, and so God came and killed him. God is seen by the atheist as death, but by the theist as a lover. That is the difference. If you are a devotee and understand this philosophy of spiritual life, you can live for a moment or you can live for 100 years. It doesn't matter. Otherwise, what is the use of living? Some trees live for 500 or 5,000 years. But what is the use of such a life devoid of higher consciousness? If you know that you are Krishna's servant and that everything belongs to Krishna, you can live for hundreds of years doing your duties, and there will be no karmic reaction. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Yagnartat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandha. Except work for Krishna, any work, whether good or bad, will bind you to this material world. If you do good work, you will have so-called enjoyment in your next life, but you will still remain bound up in the cycle of birth and death. And if you do bad work, then you will have to suffer the sinful reactions and also remain bound up in birth and death. But if you work for Krishna, there are no such reactions, good or bad, and at the time of death you will return to Krishna. This is the only way to break the bonds of karma. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Karma means activity, and the law of karma refers to the process in which higher authorities award us favorable and unfavorable reactions according to our pious or impious activities, respectively. As the Bible says, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Thus our present condition, whether we are wealthy, wise, or beautiful, or whether we have an American, an Indian, or a Japanese body, completely depends on the activities we performed in our previous life or lives. Ultimately, all karma, whether good or bad, is unfavorable, for it binds us to the material world. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness, however, is akarmic. In other words, it produces no reaction at all. Hence, when Arjuna killed his opponents on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he suffered no reaction. He was simply carrying out the will of Lord Krishna. This human life is meant for advancing on the path of liberation. That is called apavarga, freedom from entanglement. We are all entangled. Our acceptance of this material body means that we are already entangled, but we should not progress in the process of entanglement. That process is called karma. As long as the mind is absorbed in karma, we will have to accept a material body. At the time of death, our mind may be thinking, oh, I could not complete this work. Oh, I am dying. I have to do this. I have to do that. This means that Krishna will give us another chance to do it, and so we will have to accept another body. He will give us a chance. All right, you could not do it. Now do it. Take this body. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, these rascals have become madly intoxicated. Because of intoxication, they are doing something they should not have done. What are they doing? Maharaj Dhritarashtra is a very good example. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was cunningly planning to kill the Pandavas in order to favor his own sons. So Krishna sent his uncle Akrura to advise him not to do that. Dhritarashtra understood Akrura's instructions, but he said, my dear Akrura, what you are saying is quite right, but it does not stand in my heart, so I cannot change my policy. I have to follow this policy and let whatever happens take place. So when men want to satisfy their senses, they become mad. And in this madness, they'll do anything and everything. For example, there have been many instances in material life where someone has become mad after something and has committed a criminal act such as murder. The person could not check himself. Similarly, we are accustomed to sense gratification. We are mad, and therefore our minds are fully absorbed in karma. This is very unfortunate, because our body, although temporary, is the reservoir of all misfortunes and miseries. It is always giving us trouble. These matters are to be studied. We should not be mad. Human life is not meant for that. The defect of the present civilization is that people are mad after sense gratification. That is all. They do not know the real value of life, and therefore they are neglecting the most valuable form of life, this human form. When this body is finished, there is no guarantee what kind of body one will take next. Suppose in my next life, I by chance get the body of a tree. For thousands of years, I will have to stand up. But people are not very serious. They even say, what is that? Even if I have to stand up, I shall forget. The lower species of life are situated in forgetfulness. If a tree were not forgetful, it would be impossible for it to live. Suppose we are told, you stand up for 3 days here. Because we are not forgetful, we would become mad. So by nature's law, all these lower species of life are forgetful. Their consciousness is not developed. A tree has life, but even if someone cuts it, because its consciousness is not developed, it does not respond. So we should be very careful to utilize this human form of life properly. The ultimate witness. After death, you have accept another body. But what kind of body you are going to accept, that you do not know. But there is superior judgment that you have done such and such karma, you accept this body. How can you deny it? Just like the court of judge is giving different judgment. Yes, you have to resolve this 1 lakh of rupees from another person. Yes, you have to receive this 1 lakh of rupees from this person. I give you decree. And another person is given order. You go to jail for 6 months. The judge is the same. But why one is going by his word for 6 months imprisonment, and another is given 1 lakh of rupees decree. The superior judgment is there, and the karma is there. Therefore, because we are getting so many different types of bodies, each body is different from another body. Unless there is superior judgment that one has to accept his body, another has to accept that body. And that judgment is given by karma, and that is stated in the Vedas. Kamana Daiva Netrena. By one's karma, and by superior judgment, one has to get another body. Tata Dehantara Prapti. So where is the wrong in this? There is superior judgment, and there are different types of body. That is a fact. So how you cannot deny. Sometimes Christians, they deny this Karmavada. I was a student in Calcutta, Scottish Churches College. So I was a student of philosophy also. So Dr. Urquhart, he denied Karmavada, that I am punished at this present body. Where is the witness? Where is the witness? Because any judgment is done on the strength of the witness. So that was his argument. But the witness is there. According to Vedic system, the witness is the sun, the witness is the moon, the witness is the day, the witness is the night. And above all, the supreme witness is God himself. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. So how you can hide yourself from the vigilance of the Supreme Lord? The Supreme Lord is witness. So according to your karma, and that is also explained in another place in Bhagavad Gita, why people are getting superior and inferior types of bodies. That is explained. Karanam guna sango sya sad asad yoni janmasu. Sad asad, good and bad, first class and third class. Sad asad janma yonisu, species of life they are getting. The reason is Karanam guna sango sya. Because he's associating with different modes of nature, there are 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So if you associate with goodness, you get one type of body. If you associate with passion, you get another type of body. If you associate with ignorance, you get another type of body. This is the law of nature, and the witness is the supreme personality of Godhead. So there is exactly everything in order. You cannot escape that. Daivi Hiesa Guna Mai Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is not possible to escape. This is Karmavada. But this Karmavada, just like one man is sentenced by the law to be hanged, nobody can save him. But still there is King's mercy. He can save you. Just like a child when he's crawling. He touches a fire and he's burned. He forgets. But when he has grown up, if he inquires from the parents, why this scar is in my hand, the father reminds, my dear child, you did like this. So because you have forgotten, that does not mean it does not take place. You have forgotten. You do not know what you were doing at this time yesterday. You are so forgetful. So you're remembering or forgetful doesn't matter. The law of nature must work severely. It doesn't matter whether you forget or you do not know the law. Forgetfulness of law is no excuse. You must suffer, just like the child when he touches the fire. The fire does not consider, oh, here is an innocent child. Why should I burn him? He must be burned. That is the law of karma. When you touch fire, it must act, and you must suffer. Without any judgment, the law is already there. The supersoul, Paramatma, the guide of the individual living beings, does not take part in fulfilling the desires of the living beings, but he arranges for the fulfillment by material nature. As soon as an individual soul becomes conscious of his eternal relationship with the supersoul and looks only toward him, he at once becomes free from the entanglements of material enjoyment. Christian philosophers who do not believe in the law of karma put forward the argument that it is absurd for a person to accept the results of past deeds of which he has no consciousness. A criminal is first reminded of his misdeeds by witnesses in a law court, and then he is punished. If a death is complete forgetfulness, why should a person be punished for his past misdeeds? The conception of the Paramatma is an invincible answer to these fallacious arguments. The Paramatma is the witness of the past activities of the individual living being. A man may not remember what he has done in his childhood, but his father, who has seen him grow through different stages of development, certainly remembers. Similarly, the living being undergoes many changes of body through many lives, but the supersoul is also with him and remembers all his activities, despite his evolution through different bodies. Reverse evolution. One who is not a believer in God, he is animal, and he is posing himself as human being. Cheater. Human life is meant for tapasya, for understanding God. That is human life. This dog's life, cat's life, this is not human life. If you are a very powerful tiger, is that human life? They're thinking like that. If I become as strong as a tiger, then we are a perfect nation. What is the use of tiger? It simply kills only. What other intelligence he has got? Nalakuvara and Manigriva were great devotees of Lord Shiva. Because of material opulence, they became so extravagant and senseless that one day they were enjoying with naked girls in a lake and shamelessly walking here and there. Suddenly Narada Muni passed by. But they were so maddened by their wealth and false prestige that even though they saw Narada Muni present, they remained naked and were not even ashamed. In other words, because of opulence and false prestige, they lost their sense of common decency. Therefore, Narada Muni set an example by cursing these two persons, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, to become dull and unconscious like trees. This was a fit punishment. These two young men, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, are by fortune the sons of the great demigod Kuvera. But because of false prestige and madness after drinking liquor, they are so fallen that they are naked but cannot understand that they are. Therefore, because they are living like trees, for trees are naked but are not conscious, these two young men should receive the bodies of trees. This will be proper punishment. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.22 Narada Muni. Those who have no discrimination of eating, they are going to be hogged next life. Therefore, Krishna says, Yad Vikari Yaktas Chayat, how one becomes a hog, dog, cat, or demigod, or Indra, or Brahma. You are given the facility of human being, and if you misuse your facilities, then according to your mental condition, you will be offered the next body. Yam yam vapi smaram loke tyajyate tyajyantante kalevaram. You'll find. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state without fail. Bhagavad Gita 8.6, Lord Krishna to Arjuna. According to Karma, there are different species of forms of life, but they have got all facilities to live. That is God's creation. Mayad hiyakshena prakriti shuyate sacharacharam. The direction is there. that this living entity wanted a body to swim in the sea very jubilantly. So now he has got the body of a fish. So let him live very peacefully. That is God's mercy. You take very much pleasure with that surf. What is called in the sea? Surfboard. Yes. So if you increase your engagement, how I shall be swimming and enjoying the sport all day and night. Then Krishna will give you the body of a fish. Yes, he is very kind, and you will very nicely live in the sea, always swimming without any difficulty. Every life. As you increase your propensity for a certain type of activities, nature is ready immediately. Take this body. Why are you anxious? Take this body. Similarly, if you become anxious to have a body like Krishna, that is also ready. Now it is your choice. If you like, you take the body of a fish. Or if you like, you take the body of Satchid Ananda Vigraha, eternal blissful knowledge. So we are trying to give that body, not a fish body, cat's body, dog's body, that we have experienced past life. We have got this life now to make discretion, to make choice. What kind of body we're going to get next, that is intelligence. And after giving up this body, undoubtedly you go back to Krishna, back to home, back to Godhead. Destiny. Although we appear combined together in a family, society, or nation, each of us has an individual destiny. Everyone takes birth according to the individual past work. Therefore, everyone must individually enjoy or suffer the result of his own karma. There is no possibility of improving one's destiny by cooperative living. Sometimes it happens that one's father accumulates wealth by illegal ways, and the son takes away the money. Although it is hard earned by the father, just as a small fish in the ocean eats the material body of a large old fish, one ultimately cannot accumulate wealth illegally for the gratification of his family, society, community, or nation. An illustration of this principle is that many great empires which developed in the past are no longer existing because their wealth was squandered away by later descendants. One who does not know the subtle law of fruitive activities and who thus gives up the moral and ethical principles carries with him only the reactions of his sinful activities. His ill-gotten wealth and possessions are taken by someone else, and he goes to the darkest region of hellish life. One should not, therefore, accumulate more wealth than allotted to him by destiny. Otherwise, he will be factually blind to his own interest. Instead of fulfilling his self-interest, he will act just in the opposite way for his own downfall. Karmis, materialists, labor to accumulate more and more money for future generations only because they do not know their future position. Interested only in getting more and more money for their sons and grandsons, such foolish persons do not even know what their position is going to be in the next life. There are many incidents that illustrate this point. Once a great Karmi accumulated a vast fortune for his sons and grandsons, but later, according to his karma, he took his birth in a cobbler's house located near the building which in his previous life he had constructed for his children. It so happened that when this very cobbler came to his former's house, his former sons and grandsons beat him with shoes. There were inquiries about some prominent men in India. So an astrologer was consulted. Then it was published that such and such former great politician of India, he is now one of the two dogs of a gentleman in Sweden. You see, so this time in this life, I may become a very big man or a big politician, big diplomat, big businessman. But next life, after your death, it is your greatness of this material that will not help you. That will depend on your work. And nature will offer you a certain type of body you'll have to accept. Of course, you will forget. That is the concession given by nature. Just like we do not remember what we had been in our past life. If I remember that suppose I was a king in my past life, now I have become a dog, then how much suffering will it be? Therefore, by nature's law, one forgets, and death means this forgetfulness. Death means this forgetfulness. So this is a great science. People do not know it. A rich man gets his son born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but the child who came as the rich man's son deserved such a place, and therefore he is placed there by the will of the Lord. And at that particular moment, when the child has to be removed from that place, he is also carried by the will of the Supreme, even if the child or the father does not wish to be separated from the happy relation. The same thing happens in the case of a poor man also. Neither rich man nor poor man has any control over such meetings or separations of living beings. Chapter 60 Knowledge. Jnana means ordinary knowledge or any branch of knowledge. This knowledge develops up to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Actual knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formularies. Above this, when it is partially mixed with devotion, such knowledge develops to knowledge of Paramatma, or the all-pervading Godhead. This is more confidential. But when such knowledge is turned into pure devotional service, and the confidential part of transcendental knowledge is attained, it is called the most confidential knowledge. This most confidential knowledge was imparted by the Lord to Brahma, Arjuna, Uddhava, etc. If one does not ask, "Who am I? What is the goal of my life?" but instead follows the same animal propensities as cats and dogs, what is the use of his education? As discussed in the previous verse, a living being is entrapped by his fruitive activities, exactly like a silkworm trapped in his own cocoon. Foolish persons are generally encaged by their fruitive actions, karma, because of a strong desire to enjoy this material world. Such attracted persons become involved in society, community, and nation and waste their time, not having profited from having obtained human forms. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, great leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists are all engaged in foolish activities, thinking, "This is mine and this is yours." The scientists invent nuclear weapons and collaborate with the big leaders to protect the interests of their own nation or society. In this verse, however, it is clearly stated that despite their so-called advanced knowledge, they actually have the same mentality as cats and dogs. As cats, dogs, and other animals, not knowing their true interest in life, become increasingly involved in ignorance. The so-called educated person who does not know his own interest, his own self-interest, or the true goal of life, becomes increasingly involved in materialism. It is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by the material laws. They are factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is woman. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Victimized by such a conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Under the modes of nature, under the modes of nature, knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. According to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge: action and performer of action. Now hear them from me. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, it is said to be in the mode of darkness. Bhagavad Gita 18.18.22, Lord Krishna to Arjuna. There are three kinds of impetus for daily work: knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. A person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, aquatic, or plant, possess knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of their previous work. Differences are perceived in terms of the body. Because there are many forms of material existence in conditional life, the living force appears to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge is an aspect of self-realization. The concept that the material body is a living entity, and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no separate soul which manifests consciousness. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of the scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion, and knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. For it affects to acquiring to acquiring knowledge. An ordinary person cannot possess or give perfect knowledge because there are four defects: Brahma, Pramada, Kanana, Patava, Vipralipsha. Brahma means to commit mistakes. Pramada means illusion. Lipsa means cheating. And Karana Patava means imperfect senses. Imperfect senses. A conditioned human being has imperfect senses. We view the sun as a small disk. Why? It is far, far greater than this earth, but we see it as just a disk. Everyone knows that our seeing power, our hearing power, and so on are limited. The eyes cannot see that which is very distant or very small. One cannot even see his own eyelid, which is the closest thing to his eye. And if one is disturbed by a disease like jaundice, he sees everything to be yellow. Similarly, his eyes cannot hear distant sounds. Karana means the senses through which we act, just like we catch up through the hand. This is called karana. These are imperfect. I am catching with my hand. But if the hand is paralyzed, so long we are not paralyzed, our machine is going nicely, we can catch. Otherwise, we cannot catch. This is conditioned. We can catch under certain condition. So therefore, our senses are imperfect. Kalana apatu. Apatu means perfect. Apatu means imperfect. Mistakes. Any conditioned soul, however great he may be, he must commit mistakes. That is one of the deficiencies. To err is human, as it is said. For example, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi was considered to be a very great personality, but he committed many mistakes. Even at the last stage of his life, his assistant warned Mahatma Gandhi, "Don't go to the New Delhi meeting. I have some friends, and I have heard there is danger." But he did not hear. He persisted in going and was killed. Even great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, President Kennedy, there are so many of them. Because his senses are imperfect, the conditioned soul is sure to commit mistakes. However great a scientist he may be, not very long ago in this country, there was a disaster when the scientists tried to send a rocket up, but at once it burned to ashes. So there was a mistake. The conditioned soul must make mistakes, because that is the nature of conditioned life. The mistake may be very great or very slight. That doesn't matter. But a human being conditioned by material nature is sure to commit mistakes. Brahma refers to false knowledge or mistakes, such as accepting a rope as a snake or an oyster shell as gold. Illusion. Pramada refers to inattention or misunderstanding of reality. The conditioned soul must become illusioned. For example, we accept the body as the self. Since I am not this body, my acceptance of the body as myself is an illusion. The whole world, the whole world is going on under the illusion that I am this body. Therefore, there is no peace. I am thinking that I am Indian. You are thinking that you are American, and a Chinese man is thinking that he is Chinese. Nothing actually belongs to the living entity, but he becomes mad after everything, claiming, "This is mine, this is mine, this is mine." Janasya maho yam aham mameti. This is called illusion. Nothing belongs to the living entity, but he claims that everything belongs to him. Illusion means taking one thing for another. That is called illusion. When we stand beside a reservoir of water, we see the tree reflected upside down. We also have the experience of a mirage in the desert, accepting the sand as water. We think that there is water, but actually there is not. The desert animals run after water in a mirage and eventually die of thirst. They cannot relieve their thirst with such illusory water. Sometimes sailors at sea think they see land, but actually this is a mirage in the water. Cheating. The propensity to cheat is the fourth effect of conditioned life. I may be a fool, but I will boast that I am very learned. Everyone who is illusioned and commits mistakes is a fool, but still such fools pose themselves as being sources of infallible knowledge. Every man, every man has a cheating propensity, which is employed in business for money transactions. Although two friends may be living peacefully together, due to their propensity to cheat, they become enemies when there is a transaction between them. A philosopher accuses an economist of being a cheater, and an economist may accuse a philosopher of being a cheater when he comes in contact with money. In any case, this is the condition of material life. One may profess a high philosophy, but when one is in need of money, he becomes a cheater. In this material world, so-called scientists, philosophers, and economists are nothing but cheaters in one way or another. So-called scholars and learned men, especially in the Western world, each one giving his own mental gymnastics. That philosophy is not perfect. The scientists are cheaters because they present so many bogus things in the name of science. They propose going to the moon, but actually they end up cheating the entire public of large sums of money for their experiments. Another form of cheating is done by man and woman for sex life. Just like a woman cheats by putting on all this makeup with the idea that I will attract someone for my sense pleasure, and the man promises so many things, I will take care of you, I will do this, I will do that. Empiricism. The Oxford Dictionary defines empirical as based on observation and experiment. Observation and experiment is conducted with limited senses. Therefore, the conclusions are naturally limited and imperfect. So, in fact, the soul and the existence of God is quite beyond the power of the empiricist's observations. By the ascending process, empiricism, one attempts to understand God by his own efforts. By philosophizing, meditating, or speculating, the scientists are estimating the absolute truth, the cause of all causes, with their imperfect senses of minds, and thus they are bound to be bewildered. The essential fault of the so-called scientists is that they have adopted the inductive process to arrive at their conclusions. For example, if a scientist wants to determine whether or not a man is mortal by the inductive process, he must study every man to try to discover if some or one of them may be immortal. The scientist says, I cannot accept the proposition that all men are mortal. There may be some men who are immortal. I have not yet seen every man. Therefore, how can I accept that man is mortal? This is called the inductive process. Those embarking upon an empirical approach to Vedic literature see no spiritual objectives, accept no guru, maintain no strict moral codes, and consequently they consider the Vedas to be mythological. In the field of linguistics, researchers have devised a so-called Indo-European language as a common ancestral tongue for Sanskrit, Greek, and Latin. However, there exists no proof for it. Where was it spoken? Where are the remains? It is a chauvinistic theory. Glottochronology doesn't produce reliable proof. 3 types of evidence. There are 3 main kinds of understanding or evidence called 1. Direct understanding, pratyaksha. 2. Hypothetical understanding, anumana. 3. Understanding through sound, shabda. 1. Pratyaksha. The process of receiving knowledge through direct perception has no value because our senses are all imperfect. For example, every day we see the sun to be just like a small disk, perhaps 12 inches in diameter, but in fact it is 100 times larger than the earth. So what is the value of our direct perception through our eyes? We have so many senses through which we can experience knowledge, the eyes, the ears, the nose, and so on. But because these senses are imperfect, whatever knowledge we get by exercising these senses is also imperfect. Because scientists try to understand things by exercising their imperfect senses, their conclusions are always imperfect. Svarupa Damodara, a scientist among her disciples, inquired from a fellow scientist who says that life comes from matter. If I give you the chemicals with which to produce life, you will be able to will you be able to produce it? The scientist replied, that I do not know. This is imperfect knowledge. If you do not know, then your knowledge is imperfect. Why then have you become a teacher? That is teaching. Our contention is that to become perfect, one must take lessons from the perfect. Knowledge acquired in the bodily platform, direct perception, is not real knowledge. Therefore, we can challenge these scientists, so-called scientists. Their basic principle of knowledge is on the bodily concept of life, pratyaksha, experimental knowledge. Experimental knowledge means this gross sense perception that is experimental. Pratyaksha. Everyone says, we do not see God. God is such a subject matter that you can see with this pratyaksha, direct perception. God's another name is Anubhava. Anubhava. Just like in this room, we do not see the sun directly, but we know that there is sun. It is daytime. How do you know it? You do not see, but there are other processes by which you can experience. 2. Anumana. Anumana means I cannot see directly, but by symptoms I can imagine. Just like I haven't seen that in the month of April, May, June, we can get mangoes. Just like I have seen that in the month of April, May, June, we can get mangoes. That is our direct experience. So we can say, in the month of April, May, June, we shall have mangoes. Because I experienced in my last April, May, June. In January, there will be no mangoes. When there is a forest fire on a high hill, smoke is first of all visible. The smoke is created when there is fire. Just as one can conclude there is fire from seeing smoke, From seeing this cosmic manifestation, one may conclude that there must be a creator. This is hypothesis. We may hear children playing outside, and by hearing, we can conjecture that they are there. Darwin's theory says it may be like this, it may be like that, but that is not science. That is a suggestion, and it is also not perfect. Sabda. Sabda or Shruti refers to the transcendental sound of the Vedas and is regarded as evidence. Sound is very important in Vedic understanding, for if it is pure, it is accepted as authoritative. Even in the material world, we accept a great deal of information, which is sent thousands of miles by telephone or radio. In this way, we also accept sound as evidence in our daily lives. Although we cannot see the informant, we accept his information as valid on the basis of sounds. Now, what is this newspaper? From newspaper, you understand that in China, such and such things have taken place, and in India, such and such things have taken place. Or from radio message, you understand that such and such things have taken place. But you are not experiencing them directly, whether such and such things have actually taken place. But you accept the authority of the newspaper. You accept the authority of the newspaper and you believe it. That in China, such and such things have taken place, and in India, such and such things have taken place, which is far beyond the range of your direct perception. Similarly, there are many instances. We have to believe the authority to take knowledge. And the more the authority is perfect, your knowledge is perfect. By seeing your direct perception, sun just like a disk. Is it right? Or you take it from authority that sun is such and such times bigger than the earth. Which one of them you'll accept? But you are not going to prove it that the sun is so great. You do not know. You accept from some scientist, from some astronomer, from some authority that sun is so great. But you have no capacity to see yourself whether the sun is so great or not. Therefore, the knowledge received from authority, actually we are accustomed and we are accepting this type of knowledge in every field of our activities. Sound vibration is very important in the transmission of Vedic knowledge. That is called aparoksha. Pratyaksha, paroksha, aparoksha. In this way, Krishna consciousness means adhoksaja and aprakrita, beyond the senses. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, adhoksaja, where direct perception cannot reach. So where direct perception cannot reach, then how you can perceive anubhava? That is Shruti. You have to take knowledge from the Vedas, and the Vedic knowledge is explained by the Guru. Therefore, one has to take shelter of Krishna as the supreme Guru, or his representative. Then all these troubles means ignorance can be dissipated. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, conch shells and cow dung are nothing but the bones and the stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. The Vedic statements are self-evident. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. If we interpret according to our imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. According to the Vedic principles, bones and dung are generally considered very impure. If one touches a bone or stool, he must take a bath immediately. That is a Vedic injunction. Yet the Vedas also enjoin that a conch shell, although the bone of an animal, and cow dung, although the stool of an animal, are very sanctified. Even though such statements appear contradictory, on the basis of the Vedic version, we still accept the fact that the conch shells and cow dung are pure and sanctified. Out of the main types of evidence, direct perception, hypothesis, and the Vedas, Vedic evidence is accepted as the foremost. If we want to interpret the Vedic vision, we must imagine an interpretation according to what we want to do. First of all, we set forth such an interpretation as a suggestion or hypothesis. As such, it is not actually true, and the self-evident proof is lost. Self-perception is always imperfect, especially in the conditional stage of life. By direct perception, we can see that the sun is just like a disk, no larger than the plate we eat on. From scientists, however, we come to understand that the sun is many thousands of times larger than the earth. So what are we here to accept? Are we to accept the scientific proclamation, the proclamation of authorities of our own or our own experience? Although we cannot ourselves prove how large the sun is, we accept the verdict of astronomers. In this way, we are accepting the statement of authorities in every field of our activities. The traditional Vedic students accept understanding through sound to be the best. Transcendental sound is not ordinary language, although it appears to be written in ordinary language. Krishna is speaking. He is not ordinary man. Nobody will be interested so much if Bhagavad Gita was written by ordinary man. It was spoken by Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was recorded by his incarnation, Vyasadeva. So it is transcendental literature. Sastra, scripture, means above these defects. Where there is no such defect, that is Sastra. Evidence from the Vedic literature should be accepted as final authority. A little song about mundane knowledge. With great confidence, I pass the time in the pleasures of mundane learning. I never worshipped your lotus feet, O Lord, but now you are my only shelter. Reading on and on, my hope grew, for I considered material knowledge to be life's true path. That hope was fruitless, that knowledge proved feeble. I know now that all such knowledge is ignorance. All mundane knowledge is but the power of the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, and an impediment to your service. It makes an ass out of the eternal soul by bringing about an infatuation for this temporary world. Here is one such ass who has for so long carried on his back the burden of material existence. Now, in my old age, for want of the power to enjoy, nothing pleases me. Life has become agony now. That knowledge has become ignorance, and the burning pain of ignorance has become intolerable. Mundane knowledge has become just like a pointed shaft. O Lord, there is no other treasure in this world but your lotus feet. Thus, Bhaktivinoda, giving up all mundane knowledge, makes your lotus feet the sum and substance of his life. Intuition? Intuition is nothing but experience of my last life. The rascals say that there is no experience, just like a dog's cub born. But it is also trying to find out milk from the body of the mother, and exactly in the same place putting in his mouth. Or a human child also. This is my experience. That proves that life is continual. Just like I came here about 2-3 years ago, so I immediately, while getting down, I immediately understood, oh, the same house. This is called intuition, means past experience. Knowledge given by Paramatma from within the core of the heart is explained by the modern scientist as intuition. They do not know where from this intuition is coming, and that is coming from God. Therefore, Therefore, it is stated, Mataha, from me. Shmitir Gyanam Apohanam Shah, a small cub dog. It has not opened the eyes, but still, immediately after birth, it is seeking the nipples of the mother. So where from the knowledge comes from? From within. And that is from God. Srila Baladev Vidyabhusana has enunciated the nature of pradhana, material nature, as follows. Sometimes the material scientist suggests that the intuition of living creatures from birth to be material, but such material tendencies as bodily intuition cannot be accepted as independent, for they suggest the existence of a spirit soul within the body. Actually, the tree or the body of a living creature has no tendency or intuition. The tendency and intuition exist because the soul is present within the body. In this connection, the example of a car and driver may be given very profitably. The car has a tendency to turn right and left, but one cannot say that the car itself, as matter, turns right and left without the direction of a driver. A material car has neither tendencies nor intuitions independent of the intentions of the driver within the car. The same principle applies for the automatic growth of trees in the forest. The growth takes place because of the soul's presence within the tree. When a person thinks, I am doing this, the I am does not refer to the body. It refers to something more than the body or within the body. As such, the body as it is has neither tendencies nor intuition. The tendencies and intuition belong to the soul within the body. Perfect knowledge. How can one expect the real knowledge from conditioned souls? There is no possibility of receiving actual knowledge from them. Whether a person is a scientist, a philosopher, or whatever, because he is conditioned, he cannot give complete information, no matter how educated he may be. That is a fact. One may now ask, how can we get complete information? The process is to receive knowledge via the disciplic succession of spiritual masters and disciples beginning with Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was first spoken to me by the sun god, and the sun god spoke to his son Manu. In turn, Manu spoke this knowledge to his son Ikshvaka, and then Ikshvaka spoke the same to his son. In this way, the knowledge has come down. But unfortunately, that disciplic succession is now broken. Therefore, O Arjun, I am now imparting the same knowledge to you because you are my dear friend and great and good devotee. This is the process of receiving perfect knowledge, to accept the transcendental vibration coming down from higher sources. The entire stock of Vedic knowledge is the transcendental vibration